Hello, everybody. I'm back. This is for another episode of the Idiot Quilter, and it is episode number 358 for June the 2nd, 2026. And when I said I was back, well, you know I'm back from Japan. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Japan fabrics and my plans for those in today's program. But before we do that, let's take a look at the stuff I left behind. And what I mean by that is the stuff I've left behind on my design board that I need to get at and finish up. So here's my design board. What a mess. Of course, you can see the quilt that I'm not sure what I'm going to call it, but I think I'm going to call it Something's Not Quite Right in the background. I mean, it's done, except for the fact that it has to get on Lucy. It has to get quilted. It's an odd quilt. It really is, and I have nobody to blame for that except myself. So right now, I'm using it kind of as a backdrop behind my cutting board. You'll see the lighthouse over in the one side there. That is a wall hanging, is what it was intended for. I basically did it as a palette cleanser and something quick before we went to Japan. I didn't want to start a major new project before we left. So I did that. I'm happy with the way it turned out. I don't know if I want to make it a wall hanging, because quite honestly, I don't have a wall to hang it on. It's not quite right for a table runner. I am thinking I might get a little fancy with it and make it into a little bit, maybe a mini quilt wall hanging. I don't know if I should call it a mini quilt, by adding some pieced borders and things like that around it, or maybe actually incorporate it as if it was a panel into a quilt. I don't know. I've got ideas. If you've got ideas, put it in the comments below. Now, you're going to see a whole bunch of things on black background. The final version of this, I didn't take a picture of it yet because it's not really done. But the reason there's so many panels here, these are the end panels, these two and these two. I wasn't happy with the colors, or I got my colors kind of mixed up for it. So I redid them. And I like them much better, and I've got them now all sewn together. I should have taken a picture of it, but I'll show it to you when I've finished with borders on it and have it all laid out and all layered and that kind of thing. It is a table runner, of course, and in the Hoop project. And yeah, the four little end pieces, I guess we can call them, that I've got up there, I may just sew them together, make them into placemats. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. They could be table toppers, or they could just be a piece of garbage. Yeah. Excuse me, I need the coffee this morning. I'm feeling a little weird today. I don't know. I've been feeling a little weird ever since we got back from Japan, and I think it's just leftovers from jet lag. But anyways, enough about that. Get on to topic. So those things are on my design wall, but I have other projects too. I have the Gilded Books and Bloom tote bag, which is an In the Hoop project. The panels are done. I finished those up before we went to Japan. Now I have to get on with sewing them together and lining, making the lining, the handles, all that stuff, and forming it into a tote bag. So get off my rear end and get that done. I have the Alaska quilt. I've been avoiding it. I don't know what I want to do with this. I spoke to one of the ladies, Donna, at the Ultimate Sewing. She teaches a class in putting this together, and she gave me a couple of tips. So I'm going to try those out on some scrap fabric eventually and see if I can get those blocks right. Now, if I'm happy with the method that I finally settle on for putting the blocks together, the units together, then I may just either scrap the quilt as it is, or go in and carefully examine each block and see which ones I can live with and which ones I need to redo, and hope I have enough fabric for that and finish it up from there, or just do a whole brand new quilt with a whole bunch of new fabric and go from there. I don't know what I want to do with it. I have a feeling it's going to be one of those things that's going to sit on the back burner for quite a while. And what else do I have? Oh, yes, the Art East quilt, block of the month, second star to the right. Yeah, well, you know, the one thing that discourages me about Art East quilts, and it's nothing against their design, it's just me, I hate cutting. I hate cutting fabric, I really do. and there's a lot of it. But yesterday I put my nose to the grindstone, or nose to the rotary cutter, and I got all the pieces cut and labeled and ready to go to start working on the third block, or June's block for that project. So that's what I intend to work on tomorrow on Sewing with Stephen, is with that. So yeah. And I've, if I don't have enough there, I have other experimental projects, you might say. For example, I had a whole lot of scrap fabric. I put it through my Quilt, and I made, out of all of that, I've been putting together these half square triangles, 4.5-inch finished half square triangles. My goal there is just to make a whole bunch more of them, throw them up on the design wall, lay them out, and make them into a quilt. We'll see how that goes. That's going to be very random. That might be something that will sit around for a while, kind of like anytime I'm getting bored with other projects, little palette cleanser, go back to these little things and put them together, because I mean, they're simple. They're kind of almost pretty much mindless sewing when it comes to making half square triangles, and sometimes you need mindless sewing. Yeah. So I've got that. So yeah, just when you thought, that's enough to keep me going for quite a while, Sweet Pea has a sale. Sweet Pea is an embroidery company out of New Zealand. Let me just call something up here for you. And of course, I'm a sucker for a sale, and they had everything. Everything was 50% off. And I love In the Hoop projects. And In the Hoop projects do tend to be a bit on the pricey side. So I decided I would do some shopping. And so I went online, and I went through all of their In the Hoop projects, and I picked out ones that I thought appealed to me, that I thought could be given as gifts or whatever. And, well, here's my order. I bought 9 patterns. I couldn't resist at 50% off. But let's just take a brief look at what each one of these is all about. So we'll call up this first one. It is called Geometric Shapes, Blocks, and Runner. Now, this one thing I do like about Sweet Pea designs in the hoop, they can actually be used in several different projects. So this one is a table runner. I really like the contemporary style of it, but I'm looking at the blocks as well, just minus the sashing that's on them and that kind of thing. They're all the same block. I think that could make a really interesting quilt. So lots of potential there. So that one's called Geometric Shapes, Blocks, and Runner. And if you want to get any of these, I'm not going to list them in the show notes below. All you need to do is go to do a Google search, go to Sweet Pea Embroidery. Be careful when you do the Google search. The first thing that comes up is not Sweet Pea. Okay, so find where it says Sweet Pea Embroidery. Click on that, and then you can just do a search for the name of each of these things I'm about to show you. So this one, Geometric Shapes, Blocks, and Runner. And you see, I got that for $5.85 Canadian, half price. So that was a bargain. Okay, let's go to the next one. This one is called the Rigoli Inspired Peacock Table Runner. Now, I do love peacocks and things, and I especially like this one because, you can have a lot of fun with colors. Now, I don't usually do the colors that they show in their samples. I pick my own colors for things, and you shouldn't be afraid to do that. But this one I think is really cool. Also, another one, again, that might make an interesting quilt block. I don't think they have suggested that, but I'm suggesting it. Or it could make even a pillow cover. However, if you notice, this block is really made up of 4 units too. Take you some time. It's in the hoop. It's in the hoop applique. I love in the hoop applique. But that, it appealed to me. So that's another one. Now, I love houses on quilts or in table runners, and I thought this one was really cute. The reason I like houses in these kind of things is because you can take advantage of a lot of your scrap patterned fabrics and make the houses your own. You know, you can have a lot of fun with design and with color. And because these are whimsical, you don't have to worry about trying to be realistic about it. Just have fun with your fabric. So that's called the Houses Table Runner. Now there's another one here. Now, Borgellos. I have a love-hate relationship with Borgellos. I love to look at them. I hate making them. I have made several, and I have screwed up several too. And it's very easy to screw up a Bargello. But I'm looking at this, and it looks almost like they've used K Facet or Tula Pink fabrics in theirs. But I think this would be great because you make Bargellos all in strips. Now, I'm not sure how they're doing it in the hoop. But it's a great way if you've got some partial jelly rolls or things like that around, depending on what size. Well, it doesn't matter even what size they suggest for these strips that you put down, because you'll be trimming them anyways. And I don't know if they're making them in blocks. They probably are. So this will be an interesting project. And again, this could become a whole quilt, I think, or, you know, a cushion cover or a table runner. I think I'd probably stick with the table runner or even placemats. It looks almost like what they're showing here is a placemat, you know, matching set. Great idea for a gift, you know, giving a nice, if I give table runners, I often like to make napkins out of coordinating fabric and placemats as well. I can make it a whole table set. So that one is called the Bargello Runner. Then I bought this one, and it's called Illusion Block Runner. And this is one I think you could have a lot of fun with. They've used a lot of really busy fabrics in this. Again, great scrap buster. I'm always looking for scrap busters for these kind of projects. It has a very contemporary look to it, in my opinion. And yeah, I think this would be a lot of fun to make. So that one's called the Illusion Block Runner. Then we have this now for Christmas. This is the one I want to make first because, you know, it's June. We're what, 6 months away from Christmas? 7 months away? 6, 7, whatever, however you count it. July, let's see, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 7 months. But, you know, you got to get started on your Christmas presents now. And I have some people in mind that I want to give this to. And I think it looks really cool. So I'll dig around through my Christmas fabrics. I need to clean up my Christmas fabrics because I'm really not sure what I have. And I have a lot of scraps of Christmas fabric too, which I think I could probably use in this as well. So that's called the Christmas Holly Quilt Block and Table Runner. And yeah, you can do it as a quilt block too. So again, you know, and here's a different colorway. So, you know, lots of potential here. And good price, because regular price was $18.29, now $9.15. I'm not sure how long this sale is on for. At the time of recording this is June the 2nd. I bought these last week. Usually their sales run for several weeks. So, you know, if you're thinking about it, you might want to pop over to Sweet Pea Embroidery and, you know, get them while they're cheap. This one looked like fun. Again, they seem to be using a lot of Tula Pink kinds of fabrics in these things. This is a table spinning top blocker, it is called. Depending on what that works out to, that might make a nice table topper for my round coffee table. And I might change the colors out. I probably would. Or again, here's another project. If you've got scraps, I think this one would work very well with that. So spinning top block and quilt, they call it. And all of Sweet Pea's designs do have a PDF file that you can download and print out or read off your computer. I prefer to print them out than read them on the computer for, you know, how to put these things together. Don't let in the hoop embroidery, and I've done some videos about it, scare you off. They seem a little intimidating at first, but once you've done a few pieces in any one of the projects, they move along quite nicely and they're very easy to do. So now I saw this bag, and I do like making bags, but the reason this one appealed to me is because of the dachshund that's on it. Our next door neighbors have a dachshund, And I'm thinking this as a potential Christmas present for them. But we'll throw in a couple of bottles of wine. I know they would love something like this. I'm not fond of the colors that they're using in that, but that's okay. I would probably use some patterned fabrics that kind of are in the color of their dog's coat for this. And it looks like what happens is the little wiener dog wraps all the way around to the back, which I think is kind of cute. Now, of course, the only thing you're doing in the hoop with this are the panels, and then you sew it all together, and then you finish it up like you would finish up any tote bag with your lining and your handles and all of that, and the bottom piece. It looks like they're suggesting using some shiny vinyl or leatherette per pleather, or real leather if you want. So yeah, I think this is going to be kind of fun. And I'm just looking here. They have other things. You know, if you're into a theme thing, they've got other things that are themed with a dog. And they've got prices here. So that's the Dachshund or Dachshund, however you want to say that, blocks and tote bag. And the last thing I bought was this. I don't know when I'll get to it. It depends on how clearly written they have, or how well written they have done the pattern for this, because I have found in the past any of their elaborate bags, it's kind of hit and miss on how clear the instructions are. And this one is, I'll admit, looks a little intimidating to me, but I think it would be a lot of fun to make. And you know, they're showing you different versions here, and there are different sizes. There looks like there's, depending on which hoop size you want to use, how big you want to go. Not sure what the measurements are for it. They just tell you the hoop sizes. Oh, well, project dimensions, they may mention them here. Yeah, here you go. The smallest one is 7 by 5 by 4.5, and the largest one is 11 3/4 by 7 by 7. So that's not bad. They're not huge, but I think those would be great, nice as a gift for somebody, especially for somebody who sews. Because, you know, you can put lots of things in there. You know, if they're going off to a class or to a retreat, great for a knitter, I think. But I think anybody that needs something to carry around from one place to another with supplies in it, I think this would work out very well. Might be a great bag even to store fat quarter bundles or something like that in it. So yeah, that's called the beauty bag. Maybe they intend it also to be for like makeup or something as a travel bag, especially the little one might make a good one with that. And there is a zipper involved. So yeah, this one will be a challenge to make, I can tell you this. But hey, you need to challenge yourself every so often. And so that is everything that I bought. Yeah, do I have time for these things? Again, I have made lists of the projects I would like to get on with, and like every time I make a list, I get overwhelmed by the list, and then I have to start paring it down and deciding what my priorities are. And that can cause you stress. And I'm sure you know what I mean by that. And I have found that when I get a little overwhelmed with my lists, I stop, I breathe, and I go, wait. You don't have any imposed deadlines. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do or don't feel like doing. And if I tell myself that enough times, I start to believe it. And it helps. Maybe. Okay. So I need ideas for using my Japanese fabric that I purchased and when we were in Japan. And let's see. But before I start talking about that, what I do want to talk about is just what's coming up. Okay, so Sewing with Stephen is back on Wednesdays. We've missed 3 Wednesdays, I believe, since I was gone. But this Wednesday, at the time of recording this, that would be tomorrow, June the 3rd, we will be back on our weekly schedule. Join me if you wish. Come and go as you please. The link is in the show notes. Work on whatever you want to work on. Have a good time. It's very relaxing. And there's good people, really good people that I call my friends because they have become that. And I've been missing them since I've been in Japan. So yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. And if you would like to be part of the group, just click on the link in the show notes. We start at about 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, go to 4 p.m. Eastern time, but you can come and go as you please. You can come for an hour, come all day, whatever. It's very free for all. And you'll find the group. If you've never been to something like this and you're a little apprehensive, you will find you will be welcome with open arms. No judgment, no drama. And if that's not enough for you, see, I get myself busy. Pop-up sew day. Haven't had one in a while. So we're having a pop-up sew day this coming Saturday, June the 6th. Link is in the show notes as well. Now make sure you hit the right link for the right thing. There's one, it's labeled for Sewing with Stephen. That's the Wednesday. And then there's the one that says Pop-Up, the Idiot Quilter Pop-Up Sew Day. That's the one you click for Saturday. The pop-up sew days run all day. Come and go as you please. Work on whatever you want. Have a good time. I open the doors at 8 as opposed to 9, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and we go until about 4 in the afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. As I said, all are welcome. Work on whatever you want to work on. We even have some people just show up because they maybe have lost their sojo, yeah, and just, you know, wish to be social with other people and listen to what other people are doing and see what they're doing and just have a good time. It's whatever you want. You want to bring your top dresser drawer with your underwear in it and you want to organize it alphabetically? Why you would, I don't know, but if you do, you can do that too. It's all up to you. So that's this coming Saturday, June the 6th. Links in the show notes. Okay, so that takes me to what we talked about in the past videos in the week. Well, there weren't many because we didn't get back until late Tuesday afternoon. For us, it was actually very early Wednesday morning Japan time. So yes, and still suffering from the effects of jet lag. But what we did, so we did 2 videos last week. We did one on Sew Chatty on Friday. I'm tripping on my tongue this morning. And we showed you what we bought in Japan, and then we did a taste test of stuff we bought out of a Japanese vending machine. Yeah, so if you haven't seen that, you may want to check it out because I think it's kind of interesting. It was interesting for us. So, yeah. And this week on Sew Chatty, what I'm hoping I will have ready for you is using the AccuQuilt. We'll go back. We're going to wait for 3 weeks away from the AccuQuilt, and showing you how to use the double wedding ring block or the die from AccuQuilt. This one I've had for about 3 years. It's still in the original wrapper. It has intimidated me because I'm cutting curves and I got to sew curves. It's more sewing the curves than cutting them. That intimidates me. I have sewn curves before, but AccuQuilt actually realizes that people are intimidated by sewing curves. And so they have designed the pieces you cut out in such a way that's supposed to aid you with getting nice, accurate, curved stitching. So that's what I'm going to hopefully show you this coming Friday. The reason I say hopefully is I haven't made the video yet. That's my plan for today. Yeah, to make that video. See, tons of things to do. So that's this coming week on Sew Chatty. And of course we did Stephen and Walter Live last Sunday, and where we dissected our trip to Japan. Okay, this takes me then to Subscribers Quilt of the Week, and this comes from Mary Bremer. This week's quilt from a subscriber comes from Mary Bremer, and Mary writes, a couple of weeks ago we had friends over for dinner and we didn't have a tablecloth other than the holiday ones for our casual spring table setting. You speak of your quilts and after you make them you store them. I do the same and decided to put one on the table. The colors worked perfectly. There was already this table runner on the table that I had embroidered, so I just added it to the mix and it all worked very well. Thank you for featuring projects that people have made. I love seeing the projects others have sent in and hope more people will do the same. Well, Mary, this was a great idea, and I was thinking the same thing with some of my quilts. But I love the colors in yours because they really set off your table setting, and the table runner down the center as well just enhances all of the colors of both the table runner or the tablecloth, and the dishware as well. So what a great idea. And as you said, many of my subscribers love to see other people's creations. So if you're one of those people that has a creation you'd like to share with us, please send me one picture of that creation and write a little blurb, 50 words or less about it, and I will be happy to feature it here on an episode of The Idiot Quilter. So once again, thank you, Mary, for sending us this picture of your beautiful creation and your innovative use of it. And so now we've come to the time for the YouTube short tip of the week. And this one is a quilt block that I have never seen before, but looks very, very intriguing. And it's called the Hidden Wells Quilt Block. This week's YouTube short tip is making a block called the Hidden Wells Quilt Block. And for this, you just can use 4 strips of fabric. So this might be a great way to use up half-finished jelly rolls or even just scrap fabrics. So if you're looking for something a little different, something you can use up old pieces of fabric with, and something that you can create a unique quilt from, check out this short tip from YouTube. So I'm picking back up now on my little demos, tutorials, whatever you want to call them, of each stage of making my quilt pattern, the one called Healing Waters, where I use the indigenous fabrics. And we've looked at how I designed the quilt in EQ8. We've looked at how I picked out my fabrics for this. And now we're turning our attention to actually making one of the blocks. And the first thing is how to trim up the panel, because as you remember, Healing Waters I designed around a panel that I really liked, and I have taken that pattern and made it sort of universal, so it'll work with pretty much any panel that you might buy, because most people just throw borders on panels and call it a day, which is fine if you want a quickie, but if you want something a little more interesting, then that's what this pattern is all about. So we're looking at how you trim up the panel and making block 1 of this particular quilt. So you might want to pause the video here, grab yourself a coffee, come back, and continue. This little part is going to take about 14 minutes. So here's my trimmed up panel. That's what I want to start with first before I start building my blocks. So I needed to trim this panel so that widthwise it equaled 29.5 inches and lengthwise 42.5 inches. Now, when I went over the pattern with you, I had one of those measurements wrong. I have since corrected it within the pattern. Okay, so as I said, 29.5 inches across, 42.5 inches down. Now, everybody has their own method for trimming up a panel. And to be frank with you, I hate trimming a panel because I don't have a big enough workspace to spread it all out. So what I did first, and this is my method, you do what works best for you to get those measurements. I took it over to my pressing mat, I folded it in half lengthwise, and I pressed it. Then I took it over to my cutting table, and with that still folded in half lengthwise, I measured out where I needed to cut to make the overall length 42.5 inches long. Then I took the panel and I folded it the other way, selvage to selvage. I'd already trimmed off the selvage, by the way, before I started doing this, and then figured out how much I needed to trim off the top part, the unfolded, the side, let me see, how do I explain this? The opposite end of the quilt from the fold after I folded it in half, and made sure that that measurement would come out to 29.5 inches. And so there we are. That's what I have right now. So right now it is 29.5 by 42.5, but it will finish once I get the side panels and the top and bottom panels attached to this. It will come out to 29 inches across by 42 inches long. Okay, so now we can start working on the blocks. So I'm going to show you how I do block number 1 to make the half square triangles first that I need for it, and then laying it out on my little design board, and then sewing the block itself together. Okay, so let's make block 1. All right. Here in this little basket that you have in front of you, I've already done some pre-cutting of all my little unit pieces that I need, and I have them labeled. So what I've done is I got some fabric A 2.5 inch, fabric A 3 inch, fabric B 2.5 inch, fabric B 3 inch, and so on. And I've put them in this little basket just so they are handy and all labeled and I can reach in and get what I need. And of course I cut these all according to the chart that's in your instructions. So I'm only going to work on block 1. And let me bring over here my little mini design board. And here it is. And this is the block that we're about to make. This is block 1. So I'm going to follow the picture that I included in the instructions for the placement of these blocks. But before I do that, I need to make the 4 half square triangles. So in order to do that, I need to take my pieces, and I need to take the 3-inch pieces, and I need a 3-inch piece, 2 3-inch pieces actually, of fabric A, and I need 2 3-inch pieces of fabric B. So I'm going to take, since the B is a little lighter fabric, and it doesn't matter which order you do this in, I'm going to take fabric B pieces and I'm going to put them right sides together with the fabric A pieces, and I'm going to try to make sure that all my sides are even as best I can. I have a little wiggle room when I trim these down that I can play with. Okay, once I've done that, I'm going to take a ruler and a pencil, and I'm going to draw from one corner diagonally to the other corner a line. You use the marker of your choice. I use pencil, and then I'm going to put in a pin on each side of that line. So I'll do this again. And for any of you that know how to make half square triangles, you know that there are many different methods for doing this. This is the method that I do. This makes 2 half square triangles at a time. And I need 4. Oops. And I'm just doing the same thing again. I have right sides together of my fabric A and my fabric B. And then I'm just putting a pin in to secure them, because I'm going to take them over to the sewing machine. And I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch on either side of the line I've just drawn. And then I'm going to take them, cut them in half, and trim them up. And I'll show you how I trim them up in just a second. Now I have my 2 half square triangles in this form. The one fabric down, one fabric up if you wish, or right sides together. I've drawn the line. I took it over to my sewing machine and I sewed a 1/4 inch on either side of that line on both these pieces. Now I'm going to cut them along that line in half. So just lay them out. I know this is going to be backwards to you from me, but this is the best way I can do it without cutting myself. So slice it. I need a new blade. And slice this one. Okay. Now I'm going to take them over to my pressing mat, and I'm going to press them to the dark side. But before I do that, I'm going to trim them up. These have to be, when they're pressed open, need to be 2.5 inches square. So I have this ruler. I don't know if you've seen one of these before. They're very common. I highly recommend you get your hands on one. I love them. I use these rulers, and they come in different sizes all the time. This is the Strip Tube Junior by Cozy Quilt Designs. Highly recommend it. It makes cutting triangles like this, half square triangles and flying geese, really easy. So all you do is you go down and you find your 2.5 inch mark, and that's this dotted line. 1/2 inches on this are marked in a dotted line. Solid lines are whole numbers. So there's 2, there's 2.5. So I want to take that dotted line at 2.5 and line it up along, let me see if I can do this upside down, along my stitch line, my seam line that's on here. So I just lay it down and I find that 2.5 inch. This is a little awkward when I'm doing it upside down. But I put that dotted line right along that line, and you can see there's not a lot to trim, but it is still enough. So that's on the 2.5 inch dotted line. So I'm just going to trim the excess on either side. This is when you would really like to have a nice sharp, which I don't have. I got to replace that blade. Nice sharp blade in your rotary cutter. Okay, so I'm going to do that to these other three. So I have pressed my half square triangles, and of course when you do that you will get little dog ears on the end, so you just take your scissors or your rotary cutter. I find scissors are just as easy, a nice sharp pair of little scissors. Cut off those dog ear corners, and now we can lay them all out. Now I lay them out on, I have a bunch of these mini design boards made, because it makes life easier if I can lay out the blocks. They're just big enough for a block, and lay out all my pieces on it as I'm working on it. And I can just pick the whole batch up and take them over to my sewing machine. So I've already started laying them out, and I followed my diagram that's in the instructions for the laying out the pieces. And I also have one over here off to the side that is a guide for me as well, because I'm working upside down. So I make sure I get all of these pieces the right way. And yeah, that's got it, I think. Let me just double check. Yep, there's my design. So now what I'm going to do is take it to the sewing machine, and I'm going to do this off camera because you all know how to sew. And I'm going to do it row by row to start with. So I'm going to sew this one on top of here, right sides together, open it up, press my seam towards the left. You can press them open if you wish. I prefer, if I can avoid pressing seams open, I avoid pressing seams open. That's just my preference. You do you. And then I'll press that seam, and then I'll take this one, right sides together on here, sew them together, press them. And I will do that for each one of the rows first. And then I will take the rows, and I'll take this second row, lay it on top of the first row. I will match up my seams, and because I have pressed the first row to the left, I'll press the second row to the right. That means I'll be able to easily lock or nest my seams. I usually put in a little clip at each juncture and sew it down, and do the same with the last row. And then all I have to do is take it over to my pressing station, give it a press. I sometimes also give it a little shot of acorn pressing solution just to make everything nice and flat. And then I have block one done, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. And there's my finished block one. Now I want to tell you a couple of tips about this. I've already told you how to nest your seams, which is good. And you can feel the seam underneath when you're putting pieces together. And what I do is I take my fingernail, my thumbnail, and just run it along it. And that puts everything nice and close together. And then I use Wonder Clips to clamp at the intersection point where those seams are going to go. You could use pins if you so desire. That's strictly up to your preferences. The other tool I find really handy when I'm doing patchwork is my stiletto. I love this. This allows me, if a seam is popping up a little bit in my way of my foot, I can hold it down with keeping my fingers far away from the needle as possible. It also helps me to straighten up the edges as I go along as well. The secret to any quilt I have found is making sure you cut accurately, you have an accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you are pressing everything properly as well. Now, I did not include pressing instructions in my pattern. Reason being is we all have our own method that we like, whether you like the seams open or you like to iron them over, whatever. You do you. But as long as you know how to match up your intersection points, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. So after I have it all done, I will take it to my pressing mat and give it a good press without steam. Steam will shrink the fabric, I have found. Ask me how I know. And I will also give it a little light mist of Acorn Precision Piecing Solution, pressing solution, Acorn pressing solution, and then hit it again with a dry iron. And that really helps to flatten out my seams very nicely. You want to see the underside? There's the underside. Looks very nice, doesn't it? These are things I've learned over the last few years of quilting. All these things do matter. They all count. However, if you forget one or two of them, it's not going to make that big a difference. Okay? So I have block 1 all done, and that's easy. And that's how you do all of the blocks using the half square method. The only thing that's different is the placement of the units and the fabrics, and that's all diagrammed out for you. Now, I need to make 11 more. Well, actually, I have 2 of these block 1s right here. So I think I've got that one turned the wrong way. This one's turned the wrong way. Goes, no wait, yeah, that's it. That goes that way. Yeah, okay. So I have 2 made. I need in total 12, so I need to make 10 more of these. And for me, I'm going to do all of my blocks before I even start sewing the side panel pieces together. So that's the next stage, getting all those done, laid out, and then sewing the side panels, and I'll show you how that works then. Okay, I know today's video is running a little long, but you know, I say that every week. So thank you if you're still with me. Because I want to turn our attention now to the Japanese fabrics that I purchased in Japan. Now, I showed these on So Chatty, and here they are again. I didn't buy a lot because, quite frankly, there wasn't a lot to buy. There was lots and lots of fabrics, but 90% of the fabrics or more were ones I could get here in North America from the usual suppliers and things like that. So I purposely found these ones, though, that are 2-meter cuts, each of them, and they are actual Japanese fabric. They are made in Japan. Now, below that, this is a piece of vinyl that I just thought was fun. I'm not even sure if that's made in Japan. I don't think it is, but it was already pre-cut 1 meter, and I thought this down the road, this might make an interesting bag. But these 3 fabrics are the main fabrics. So that means I've got 6 meters of fabric to work with here. I may have to supplement them depending on what I want to do with it. But that's what I want to talk a little bit about, is what am I going to do with these fabrics. So just let me turn the page here on, let me see. Okay, so I looked up ideas. I used AI to look for ideas about how to, what you could do with Japanese fabric, right? And so I discovered that, well, let me read this to you. It says, Japanese quilting blends traditional American patchwork techniques with centuries-old Japanese textile arts, focusing heavily on meticulous hand stitching, rich symbolism, and unique fabric aesthetics. While Western quilting became popular in Japan during the 1970s, it rapidly evolved into a highly distinct art form characterized by several unique styles and techniques. So the Japanese look at quilt making differently than we do here in North America. They tend to make very small art quilts. Their quilts are not necessarily designed for a bed. They're more or less designed for something you can put on a wall. Part of the reason for that, so I've been told, whether this is true or not, I don't know, but it makes sense. Japanese do not have large homes. The Japanese are very efficient people and very minimalistic, and especially ones who probably live more in the city, so they don't have a lot of space. And you know, quilts take up space. So they tend to focus on very nice fabrics like silks, those kinds of fabrics, more high-end fabrics, and they will do a lot of hand sewing, and they make small, intricate pieces. So they are really more art quilts than anything else. Now, that's what I have found in the research that I have done. It may be different from that, I'm not sure, but I'm just throwing that out there. But when I did this search for ideas for using the Japanese fabric, I came across these styles and I thought I'd share them with you. There are 4 styles, seem to be 4 basic ones for Japanese fabrics or Japanese quilting, let's say. The first one is, you probably recognize, it's sashiko, which, according to the explanation, it says a traditional form of Japanese needlework, meaning little stabs. It uses simple running stitch, traditionally white cotton thread on indigo fabric, to create geometric, interlocking, and architectural patterns, as you can see in this example. Now, I know many people are into sashiko, and this is really appeals to the people who like to do hand sewing. This is why I've never done it. However, on my embroidery machine, there are actually several sashiko stitches on it, which I have never tried. So that might be something I will try as an experiment. I don't know exactly what I do with it, but that's an idea. The next style, let me blow this up so you can see it better. This one is called Boro, and it says, born out of historical necessity, this style involves layering and patching together worn-out hemp or cotton textiles. It values the beauty of wear, repair, and utilitarian history. So, yeah, this looks like a scrap buster, basically, but it's talking about reclaiming fabrics that have been used in other pieces. So this is a great example of sustainability and recycling. So that's an idea. I don't think, though, I would use the fabrics that I bought to do this particular technique, because I think that would be a waste of decent fabric. Okay, the next thing, and I'll blow this one up. Okay, this is called Japanese taupe quilts, a world-renowned style popularized by Japanese masters like Yoko Sito. It relies on a muted, sophisticated palette of earthy gray, brown, green, and beige fabrics. Personally, it doesn't appeal to me because I find the colors very drab, and it doesn't look difficult, though. It basically looks like string blocks or whatever, where, you know, another scrap buster, just throw down strips of fabric and make your blocks. And who hasn't done that before? But I guess what makes this style a little bit more Japanese is the color palette, the earthy tones, that kind of thing. And I'm not a great fan of earth tones. So this is something that, although it's interesting to know about, not something I would probably pursue. And this one is called the Yozi. Oh, this is going to be hard to say. Yozigiri, Yozigiri, Yosegire. Not saying that right, I know. But what it is a refined patchwork style that meticulously pieces together small scraps of luxury silk or vintage kimono fabrics to build intricate, sprawling mosaic designs. So, I don't know if this is a decent example of that or not, because to me it's just a bunch of random pieces all sewn together. But maybe more or less this technique comes in the recycling again of, you know, high-end fabrics like silks and like actual kimonos. I certainly would not want to cut up a kimono because they are beautiful. When we were in Japan, we saw a display of kimonos and they are works of art. But those are the 4 styles that are associated with Japanese quilting. I don't think they're that far removed from what we do in North America. It may just be the textiles that are used in them, that kind of thing. So that takes me to basically, what do I want to do with those Japanese fabrics I made? So I did a little search on the internet, as one does, and I looked for some patterns. And I found some that kind of stood out. I don't know if I'll actually make any of these. I probably don't have enough fabric for this, but so I'll have to supplement them with something else. So what I was looking for was, 1, patterns that would show off the fabric I bought, and 2, would definitely have a, you know, you'd look at it and you go, ooh, that's Japanese kind of thing. So these were all free patterns I found on the internet, and I thought I'd share them with you. This one's called Kimono, and of course it's pretty obvious why it's kimono. And I kind of liked it because the kimonos that you make in the blocks, really would show off the fabrics that I bought. Again, though, I don't know if I have enough of a variety. There is a place here in Ontario online that I can order Japanese fabrics from, and I may have to explore that further and, you know, add to what I brought back from Japan. But that is a possibility. Another possibility, another kimono, a little bit different styling. This actually, to me, this first one is woman's kimono, and this one looks more like a man's kimono. I'm not really sure if they are, but now they're not using Japanese fabrics, but again, you can see how this definitely has a Japanese flair to it. It's called Mezami, so even a name for it. This one is a table runner, and it's got a kimono in it up here. And then, well, they're all 4 different blocks. I was looking at it more from the kimono block and thinking, hey, this might be just figure out how to make that block. It'd be in the instructions, and away you go. Now, you notice they use this featuring fabrics from European Taupe collection, which is very much the color scheme in that last style that we talked about, the Yoshigiri. So yeah, you're combining 2 things, Japanese fabrics with that style. But the fabrics I bought aren't earthy, so I don't know. But again, it was just an idea. And this one, Snapshots of Japan. I don't like the color scheme. I'm not even sure if I'm really thrilled with the layout. Again, I got this because it gives me at least 3 blocks here that could be incorporated into a quilt. The lantern, the kimono, and the temple-like one. Now, it did have applique as well. You know, I think this is supposed to represent cherry blossoms. In blues, not so much, but I'm sure you could find fabrics that would make this look more like cherry blossoms. And I think that was it. So those are the patterns I found. They're free. I have tucked them into a project box with my fabrics. If I find others that I like, I'll just build on that, and eventually I'll get around to doing one of these quilts. As I said, I think I'm going to have to look for some more Japanese fabric, but I do know of a place online that does have real Japanese fabric, so I may explore that you know, in the future too. Okay, so yesterday, if you caught my Monday morning coffee with Stephen, which was alive yesterday, I forgot one little thing, and this doesn't have anything to do with quilting, but I did want to show it. We showed you a picture of the bread that Walter had made, Japanese bread style. He found a recipe for it. He even bought a special pan from, and it's made in Japan for this, and at his first effort for it, it came out really well. He wants to do some tweaking of the recipe to make it even closer to what we had in Japan, but we've been enjoying it. So I had created just a short little 2-minute video showing Walter making the bread, and I was going to show it yesterday, and I forgot, so I'm going to tack it in here right now. So when we were in Japan, we tried their bread, which we really, really like. So when we got home, Walter decided to figure out how to make Japanese bread. He had to buy a special bread pan for it, and you can see it right here. It's a bigger pan, higher sides, and he spent most of today putting this together, and it's just come fresh out of the oven. We haven't tried it yet because it's still very warm, but it looks like it puffed up very nicely. And you said that this bread thing came with a top, right?
Yeah, you can choose to bake it with the bulging out of the top, or you can use where to put it.
You have a lid?
I have a lid for it.
Somewhere.
Anyways,
and what's the difference then?
It makes the bread go into a square.
Oh, if you put the lid on.
Yeah.
So it won't puff up as much. Yeah. But if you want that. So this looks very nice.
Oh,
now,
wait, there's the lid.
Oh, he's got the lid.
The lid slides onto the top so that you end up getting a square.
Oh, yeah. So did you put some kind of like wash on the top of this?
Yeah, it's an egg wash on the top.
So Don't try it yet. It's very hot. It just came out of the oven. So once it cools down and we can cut into it, we'll see how close it is to the bread we had in Japan. And the bread has been released from the pan. It stuck a little bit on some of the corners, but for the most part, it came out pretty good. Next time mixing that pan, he had to season this pan. And it was a bit of a process according to instructions for it. The pan is made in Japan. It's an original. And but actually it looks pretty good. Yeah, I think it cooked all right. Just a little bit. Oh, I don't want to do that. It'll rip it. It'll rip it. Light crust. See what it tastes like.
Not sure, we never had it raw, really.
No. It's, well, that's kind of crust. It's a little chewy. Okay, it's okay.
Could be I need a different recipe. I don't know. I just picked one recipe.
Yeah. It turned out okay. It's not quite what we had in Japan, but I don't know. We only tried a little bit of crust.
It feels pretty much the same.
Yeah, it feels very soft, and that's how it was there. So, yeah, well, for first effort. Yeah. Okay, so that's the end of this episode of The Idiot Quilter. I hope you got something from it. I hope you may have learned something. I certainly did, about Japanese fabrics. And if you have any suggestions or any links you think I should maybe explore to give me some ideas of what I can do with my Japanese fabric, then please put them in the comments below, and I'll check them out. So tomorrow is Sewing with Stephen. Link in the show notes, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern. All are welcome. Come and go as you please. And this coming Saturday, June the 6th, Pop-Up Sew Day, starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and running till 4 p.m. And all are welcome to that. Come and go as you please there too. So lots coming up. And on Friday, on So Chatty, hopefully, I'll be looking at, Walter and I, amongst other things, will be looking at how you do or how you use the AccuQuilt double wedding ring die. So lots coming up, and I hope you have a really great week, and I hope it's really creative, and I hope by tomorrow the jet lag will have pretty much left me. See you later. Bye for now. Hi, I'm just going to interrupt my program for just 1 second to remind you to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for future notifications. That's all I ask of you. Show me a little love. Thanks.